Can I just have you introduce yourself, your name, your year, what you're studying, and your hometown?
Alright, I am Marielle Petranoff. I am a sophomore here at MSU, obviously. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'm currently studying Spanish and a Bachelor of Arts in Music.
Awesome. Now, what was your housing arrangement last year?
Well, last year I lived in Yakeley Hall in a double room, and I went in blind as a freshman, which may not have been such a good idea. However, I still recommend for any incoming freshmen to go in blind, even though my experience was less than satisfactory. But that was pretty much last year. About 3/4 of the way through the year, my roommate ended up moving out. And then I had a single that I paid for as a double because it was free for anyone. Anyone could have moved in, but no one chose to move in. And then I had a really nice room because doubles are really big when there's only one person living in one.
Absolutely. Now, how did that inform your decision to live where you are now? Tell me about that.
Well, having lived in an all-girls dorm, I knew that I didn't want to do that again. As much as there are benefits to doing it, like you feel really comfortable just walking around in your pajamas and anywhere because like the only people that are going to see you are girls. At the same time, it becomes a lot more difficult to meet guys, and not even in like a meet guys as in prospective romance or something, but just having guys as friends and guys around is more like the real world because, I mean, you can't really avoid people of the opposite gender in the real world, so it's good to live near them and live in, like, to have practice for that, and at the same time, I knew that if I wanted to get on the honors floor, because something that I ran into last year was that the people on my floor, whether or not they had something in common with me, was complete chance. And I ended up with a bunch of music majors on my floor, which was good because I was studying music, but then that meant that like the only people that I knew were other music majors. And so, having lived in an all-girls dorm in a sort of random floor that didn't have any sort of theme to it, I knew that I wanted to live in a co-ed dorm, hopefully on an honors floor, and then even though I had such a weird experience, I still wanted to live in a double because I'm an out-of-state student and it's cheaper to live in a double, and because right about the time when my roommate moved out last year, I met my roommate this year, and she's a really cool girl, so I wanted to live with her.
Absolutely. So, from what I'm hearing is you've had a generally positive experience with housing on campus.
Yes, the actual living in the rooms on campus has been satisfactory, or above satisfactory.
Alright, so what are you going to do next year?
Well, next year gets a little bit interesting because I'm planning on studying abroad the second semester. So housing gets a little weird. Because of that, I decided to live on campus because if I do end up studying abroad the second semester and I have to break contracts, there are no penalties for that as long as I, sign the vacating room for spring semester waiver early enough. But it did get weird with trying to figure out roommates and that kind of things. So next year I'm living in a single. I'm going to go off the meal plan, so I'm going to be staying in West Circle but in Williams, so that I can have a more flexible meal plan and like cook for myself and that kind of thing. But I don't really remember everything that I've just said, so I'll try to recap. Next year I'm going to live in Williams because I wanted to go off the meal plan and get a little bit more independent in preparation for, real life again. And because it's still a co-ed dorm. And because of the weird study abroad thing, I'm living in a single, but that has nothing to do with roommate issues.
Alright, now are you moving over there with friends? Did you rock the block? Anything about that?
I did, in fact, rock the block, and it was a very interesting experience. Me and a group of friends went over, and there were 4 of us, but because I was going to be in a single, we ended up getting 3 rooms, and we got there around 2:30, and the event was supposed to start at 3, and we didn't get out until close to 6 o'clock. It was around 5:30, I think. So it was, 2.5 to 3 hours standing in a line in an air-conditioned building waiting to sign up for 3 rooms. And it ended up working out, but it was incredibly frustrating and stressful while we were doing it. And, I'd have to say that while my experience living on campus has been fantastic, my experience signing up for living on campus has been incredibly stressful both years. Because last year, I didn't decide that I was going to live with my current roommate until after Rock the Block and after all of the special sign-up dates had started. And a perk of living on the honors floor is that it's all mostly honors kids, but that also means that you can't sign up for it online. So we had to exchange probably 30 emails, and I called the housing office 3 times, and this started in probably late February or March, early March, and we didn't get a room until near the end of April. So it took an entire month to try to get us a room, and it was a little bit ridiculous that it took that long. And we went in person to talk to people with housing twice, and that got nothing. And then we finally, both times with Rock the Block this year and with signing up for the honors floor last year, it ended up working out, but I sort of had to bully my way into it for it to work out.
Right. Now, Rock the Block this year was earlier than it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's never had a necessarily set schedule. It's never really been the same day consistently, but it was obviously earlier this year than it was last. Did that add stress to your decision?
Incredibly so, especially with the fact that it fell right in the middle of midterms, because everyone needs more stress around midterm time. I keep coming back to last year. I didn't really start hanging out with my roommate this year until 2nd semester. And if I were to have had to make the decision of where I was going to live last year at the same time that I did this year, I wouldn't have roomed with her. I didn't know her at that point. I probably would have chosen to live with a different group of people that I wouldn't be as happy with. I might not have lived on the honors floor. There were all sorts of things. Nobody has their life that figured out a quarter of the way through first semester of their freshman year of high school. College now. We're in college now. But no one has their life that figured out. I'm still trying to figure out if I'm going to study abroad next year. We don't know our classes for next year. We don't know if maybe I would want to switch neighborhoods because I switched majors and suddenly all my classes are, in acres or something. We don't know any of that yet, so it seems a little bit ridiculous to have to sign up for housing this early and to have to think about the logistics of classes that you don't know about, people that you haven't yet met, and do all that in the middle of midterms and the middle of homecoming and one of the busiest weeks of first semester. It seems just ridiculous.
All right, well, thank you. Now, the housing process is still, open. You still are able to change rooms, until April, which, I've been told many times by a housing representative. And that's true. And we all know that's true, but
if you want to live in Mayo, Mary Mayo Hall in West Circle fills up at Rock the Block. That hall is completely full right now. Yes, you still have a chance to get into it because people do change their minds. People choose to study abroad first semester or live off campus or find better deals or better roommates and all sorts of things, and that kind of stuff changes, but it's complete potluck whether or not it's like playing Russian roulette with your housing. You might get a good room, you might get into that hall, if you try to sign up on April 1st. But there's absolutely no guarantee, and no, nothing is guaranteed in housing. But if you want the most options, you have to sign up at the very beginning, and then change from there. And last year, I thought that it was way too early, and it was in February. And this year, it's in November, which is, as I said earlier, ludicrous. It's, I don't think it's reasonable to ask college students to have that much of their life figured out that far ahead. And I understand some of the reasoning behind it, being that the apartment complexes sign leases this early. But I believe that the people that have everything in their life figured out enough to sign apartment contracts aren't the people that are going to live on campus anyway. So I don't see really what you gain by making it so early. Part of why I chose to live on campus this year was because I didn't have to make my decision that early on. So by forcing us to even start to think about it, like, yes, we can put off signing up for housing until, March and April, but we have to start thinking about it now. To make it happen that early loses the appeal of living on campus. I mean, there's still definite merits to living on campus, but making it this early has definitely colored my view of it.
All right, well, thank you, Mari. I think that's all we need.
All right.
I hope you have good experiences in the future.
I hope so, too. Thank you very much.